All right, everybody. Here we are for episode 53. That's right. This is 1 year that we've been doing this podcast, Wayne. It's been a crazy time to kind of start doing something like this, but we've done it. We did it. You know, every week we've been in here recording, and it's been fun. So we did. Now people are going to be like, "Why isn't this one come out yet?" This one's going to be a couple days late. I did have minor surgery last week. I'm fine, but I was a little worn down from it, so I wanted to push it. So we're gonna do this episode. It'll be out probably Monday or Tuesday.
Push it real good.
So it's So let's get started. The topic today is Liam Neeson. I'm sure if you can, spoilers, we're gonna review his brand new movie that just came out. Hence why we're talking about him. I'm going to go first today. There's a couple movies I want to talk about. One where he's not the main character. I'm going to start with that one, and then we'll move into some of the ones where he features more up front.
He doesn't have a very particular set of skills in any of these movies, given that
he doesn't.
He is so well known, and it is so widely. When you think Liam Neeson, it's like, oh yeah, Taken. It's like,
yes.
We didn't want to be so obvious with that, but...
And we talked about Taken before already. So this is more, there's also, two movies I'm going to talk about, Wayne, are going to be pre-Taken. And then post-Taken, I have one I'm going to talk about, which that's how Liam Neeson's career is, really, when you look at it. There's all the movies he did before Taken, and then it's everything he did after Taken, which is basically a bunch of action films. Where before Taken, it was a bunch of Oscar-worthy performances and Star Wars, obviously, big stuff like that, kind of epic more stuff. Now it's like he likes to punch people in the face. I'm going to start, though, with a movie where he also liked to punch people in the face, and that is called Next of Kin. It's a movie directed by John Irvin. It's from 1989. It stars the late Patrick Swayze as Truman Gates, Liam Neeson as his hillbilly brother, Briar Gates. So that tall Irishman has a kind of slightly hillbilly accent, which is funny in itself. Adam Baldwin, Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, I'm a huge fan, Ben Stiller, everybody. Ben Stiller is in this movie. Next of Kin is a film about it takes place in Illinois. It's like a redneck cop from southern Illinois. He lives in like the big city, lives in Chicago, and his family are all a bunch of hillbillies. And
they're all trying to figure out who put baby in the corner.
Yes, exactly. Bill Paxton lives in the city with him. He's works for one of the money trucks, delivering the money from bank to bank type of thing. While these mobsters, led by Adam Baldwin's character, they work for Ben Stiller's dad, who is the main mob boss. They hijack the truck. And unknowns to them, they come upon Bill Paxton, who is, again, Patrick Swayze's brother. Well, the Gates brothers are known for their unwilling to submit. And so they don't know who he is, but he's very arrogant and he doesn't want to surrender. So Bill Paxton's character gets murdered in the first 10 minutes of this movie. Well, Patrick Swayze's character obviously is very upset about this, but he's a cop, so he wants to do it the right way, take him down. The family is very upset with him because the family wants justice. They want justice how they know justice, which is by, murder. Liam Neeson plays the other brother, and he ends up crashing the party, if you will, and kind of going his own way, trying to get his own type of vengeance. It's a very 80s movie. Came out at the very end of the 80s. I haven't seen it up until probably 5 years ago, and then I just rewatched it again because it's not necessarily what I would call a good movie, Wayne, but it's a really fun movie. Yeah. And it fits that whole 80s mold of the outfits are so 80s. Everybody's just acting so 80s. It's one of Liam Neeson's first, I believe, one of his first American roles, and it's such a strange movie. I don't know that many people know about it because it wasn't one that was a huge hit. Patrick Swayze had lots of other bigger movies, obviously.
Roadhouse.
Yes, Roadhouse being one of them. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend checking it out. Liam Neeson is great in this because he plays like the no holds barred brother, where it's like whatever goes goes. Like he takes on an entire Italian mafia by himself. Like so, I mean, there's just a lot to like in this movie. He destroys their one hideout all by himself. He's kind of like it's pre-taken. Like, hey, this is what's leading. This is where his future is going to be. He's just going to take a bit of a detour.
So you're saying he's developing his specific set of skills?
Yes, exactly.
So I am going, as you were going through the cast list, I was following along like you gave the pictures. Look at Adam Baldwin and look at Bill Paxton. They look like they're the exact same person, at least on IMDb's page.
They kind of do.
It's like
they have like the exact same photo.
It's like what the hell is going on here?
They do. You're right.
I just was like,
well, it's just like their heads are cocked the same way. They kind of have the same shaped head. They're both two white dudes. Yeah, so it's one of those movies that I think is a kind of a rare gem out of the 80s that, again, people just don't really know about. And even, here's the description. This is like when I said hillbillies, like I wasn't trying to be rude. Truman, a Chicago cop, sets out to find the killer of his brother. Meanwhile, another one of his brothers, Briar, in parentheses, a hillbilly, as if that's like a particular set of people, decides to find the killer himself. So it's the two brothers. They end up clashing over this. Again, just a fun, silly movie from the 80s. Check it out if you get a chance. Wayne, what's your first one you want to talk about?
Well, you referenced Star Wars at the beginning, so let's talk about Liam Neeson in The Phantom Menace. He plays Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. This is Episode 1, as I mentioned just now, the start of the Skywalker saga. I don't think I really need to go into the whole mythos of everything because we'll be here for the next 17 and a half hours just discussing Episode 1. But he plays Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. He is mentoring a very young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they stumble across a 7-year-old Anakin Skywalker. Basically, Qui-Gon Jinn looks like a homeless bad person Jesus type Jedi Master, if you will. Kind of scraggly, but, he definitely does not adhere to the ways of the Jedi, and that's why he's not on the Jedi Council and all of this craziness. But this movie came out, I think it came out in 99, I believe.
Yep, 1999,
I think it was, until the recent, the sequels, was the highest grossing Star Wars movie of all time.
I believe so, yeah.
The Return of the Jedi came out in 1983, I believe. And then this is the first Star Wars movie in 16 years. People were losing their minds.
We talked about it in our one episode, just wrapped around the block, how many people wanted to go see this movie.
But the thing I want to focus on is how much people hated this film, and still kind of do. I mean, I don't think it's justified with the hate, but one of the things people pretty much always agree on is that they loved Qui-Gon Jinn, the Liam Neeson character, because
there's two characters they love, and it's Qui-Gon Jinn and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Yep.
Those are the two characters that I think shined through this movie. We talked about the movie a little bit already. We're going to talk about it coming up towards the end of the year. But just to be able to be Liam Neeson and be in this movie, and we all know what happens to him, and still have like people dress up as you every time a new Star Wars movie comes out and remember you. I mean, he was in one movie.
Yeah. And
he still kind of holds that, like, he's a Star Wars character. You know what I mean? Like, it's got that same representation as almost as Luke Skywalker, who was in, obviously, a ton of the movies. Right. So it is cool that he was able to kind of get that recognition from just being in this one movie that, like we said, most people didn't really care for, but they liked his character. They thought he did a really good job, which he did. And it was nice to see. It's always nice to see actors you know in these movies. And Liam Neeson has always been a professional, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. And you knew that once he took this part, no matter how silly it was or how ridiculous the script was, that he was going to do his best, and he did.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, they killed all the best stuff about in the first movie. They killed Qui-Gon Jinn. They killed Darth Maul. Yeah. In many people's opinions, the greatest villain. That puts Darth Vader to shame in some aspects of it. If you want to talk about it, different level. And I mean, Yeah, I'm not going to go into. See, I was about to launch into a Darth Maul tangent, but see, I stopped myself because we're talking about Liam Neeson. And the thing that made the character so great is that they didn't ask him to be this heroic, athletic, swashbuckling Jedi. He could hold his own in a fight, but really, he used his wits and like the mental fortitude that really just fits a Liam Neeson character. I mean, like one of the things, like when they ask him to be very like actiony or very fighty, it's like it just doesn't really feel like it fits
Yeah.
with him. I mean, now especially that he's getting older, it's like the Robert De Niro effect in The Irishman. It's like you don't believe that this 80-year-old dude is really 40 and fighting people. It's like I don't know, but yeah, I think that the role was perfect for him, and it was. Just a shame that they killed that character off because I would have loved to have seen development from that. But again, they had to because if he would have trained Anakin Skywalker, I think it would have been obviously would have been a whole different story because
the problem is we had the movies with Obi-Wan who trains Skywalker, so you have to have that kind of Obi-Wan taking over the role of the lead Jedi, right? So
it was also nice. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Sure.
I don't know if he actually came back to do a voiceover, but his voice was at least used in both the animated Clone Wars series, and you could hear him in Rise of Skywalker, the 9th movie. Just a line or two here or there.
Yeah.
But still, it just for all those people that are nostalgic and fans, it's like, yee!
Well, just the fact that they knew bringing his voice back, people were going to get excited in a movie that most people didn't like. And so, in another movie that most people didn't like too. So, regardless.
But again,
they knew it would get people excited.
Because Disney is developing the Obi-Wan series, there's rumors that Liam Neeson may make an appearance as a Force ghost to Obi-Wan when he's in his hermit years on the sands of Tatooine.
Which would be awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would be extremely excited. Well, almost as excited as when Mark Hamill reprised his role as Luke Skywalker at the end of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Spoiler, sorry!
If you haven't watched it by this point, that's your fault.
If you don't know, then you probably aren't even paying attention to this, because... Anyway, so yeah. Liam Neeson, great Jedi Master.
All right, so my next one is probably... Looking at his thing here, probably his first...
Whoa, sir, that's
hold on. This is probably his first starring role, it looks like. And so a year later after Next of Kin, he did this movie called Darkman. Now, people know me. They know me. I'm a huge horror fan. And I only bring that up because Sam Raimi, director of the Evil Dead series and Army of Darkness, which is part of the Evil Dead series, and Drag Me to Hell, directed Darkman. It was like his kind of first foray into superhero movies before he did Spider-Man and now the upcoming Doctor Strange sequel. It stars, again, like I said, directed by Sam Raimi, written by him and his brothers and a couple other people. It is starring Liam Neeson as Peyton Westlake / Darkman, Frances McDormand, Colin Friels, the late Larry Drake, who was in Dr. Giggles, one of my kind of guilty pleasure horror films from the 90s. Ted Raimi, of course, because he's basically in everything. It also has a brief cameo by Bruce Campbell, who has been in basically every movie that has been directed by Sam Raimi. It's produced by the same producer, Rob Tapert, who produces all of Sam Raimi's movies, and they run that, I think it's Ghost House. They run Ghost House together. Also, he's married to Xena, the Warrior Princess, Rob Tapert is. So that's why she works with them a lot as well. So that's just a little backstory. But anyway, Darkman, let me read the plot here. A brilliant scientist left for dead returns to exact revenge on the people who burned him alive. It's not unlike something like The Invisible Man, where like a scientist does something and something goes wrong and he's left scarred. They try to take him out and he becomes like this. In The Invisible Man, he kind of goes crazy. In this one, he becomes like a symbol of some sort, like a vigilante, if you will, trying to get revenge for what has happened to him. And they made a bunch of sequels to it, but the first one only starred Liam Neeson, and he was fantastic. It was a great first starring role for him. It's a really fun, dark superhero movie. Before we got dark superhero movies, that's kind of like The Boys and stuff like that. People like to talk about this stuff. that stuff. This kind of started that, I think. And now it wasn't as violent as those are, and it wasn't as wildly outrageous as those are. But it was definitely a darker superhero film. Liam Neeson was great in this role. I don't know if a lot of people remember it. A lot of people haven't seen it. It really is worth checking out. The sequels are okay.
I'm looking at the IMDb page, and Darkman 3, the poster at least, has Darkman, most likely the villain, and then the landscape of New York City with the World Trade Centers and a fireball behind it. I was like,
well, they obviously haven't changed it.
Yeah. I don't think many people will remember Darkman 3,
yes.
So I just saw it, and at the time I was like, oh, well, look at this.
Also, Arnold Vosloo, that's right, the guy who's the mummy in the Mummy movies. He took over in Darkman 3 and Darkman 2. So he's Darkman in 2 and 3. Little tidbit there. But Liam Neeson, again, like this is like his first starring role, and it led to kind of launched his career into being a leading man. If you look at his IMDb page, basically after that, there aren't too many movies that he wasn't the lead in. So, Darkman deserves a little credit for that. It deserves credit for being a kind of underground superhero movie that before we had plenty of those. And it's just really cool. And if you like Sam Raimi, I mean, it's got a lot of his trademark stuff in it. Like I said, it does have a great cameo from Bruce Campbell. What happens when at the end, Darkman, when he takes his mask off, it's a different face, and it's Bruce Campbell's face. Awesome. So yeah, that was a really cool kind of treat at the end of that movie. But yeah, so Darkman, 1990. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I really dig this movie. I think people will like it, especially kind of with how everyone's looking today for I like MCU, but I want something different. Give me a different comic book movie. This is a different one. It's not based on a comic book either. It's an original idea, but it plays out like a superhero movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
All right, I'm gonna jump to 1993, and this next role for Liam Neeson, speaks for itself. It's Schindler's List, written and directed by Steven Spielberg, I believe.
Yes.
Obviously, the topic is one that it's just hard to talk about, let alone think about this event in history that shaped the. I'm at a loss of words of how to describe it, so I'm just going to read you guys what it's about. Obviously, it involves the Nazis in World War II. Here's a little description that I found the most accurate. Oskar Schindler, played by Liam Neeson, is a vain and greedy German businessman who becomes an unlikely humanitarian amid the barbaric German Nazi reign when he feels compelled to turn his factory into a refuge for Jews. This is based on the true story of Oskar Schindler, who managed to save about 1,100 Jews from being gassed at the Auschwitz concentration camp. It is a testament to the good in all of us. Obviously, this is a black and white film to really. I'm not sure exactly what choices were made. I wasn't prepared to do a deep dive on this movie, even though it definitely deserves all of the time that we are going to dedicate to the show today. But it just speaks volumes to ignoring warning signs and letting political loudmouths go unchecked.
Yeah.
And again, we've gone political on this before about our beliefs and whatnot. And I'm not going to say anything too specific, but especially what's been going on in our country now and then for the last 5 years, it's scary to think about this happening again and just ignoring history. And it's right there in black and white, pun intended. The movie's in black and white, and I tried to do a little spin there. I don't know if it worked, but this is a fantastic role. The acting, just the levels that Liam Neeson goes to and experiences, I guess, because he's an arrogant, rich, wealthy businessman, and throughout this film, he just sees what these people are going through and how they're being treated, and he basically gives everything up. There's an emotional scene at the end. I could have done more. I could have saved more people. This car, this is 20 people right here. This ring that you guys made me, could be 5 more people here. I'm rarely without words when I describe anything, I usually am incorporating some sense of humor to it. But right now, I just can't express what a beautiful tribute Steven Spielberg created.
Yes.
And this is a film that affects you in many ways. It makes you stop and think. Rightly so. That's what it was designed to do. And it's a fantastic piece of cinema. And I believe it's on the film registry for.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, it just made it into the vault or whatever, the National Film Registry. It was actually written by Steve Zalian, who did The Irishman, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He co-wrote Moneyball with Sorkin, American Gangster, Gangs of New York.
Gotcha.
So a bunch of other movies too. And but this is one of his. Spielberg, I'm sure Spielberg worked on it with him. I have to imagine. But yeah, it's such a fantastic movie, a hard movie to watch for sure. Just a gut punch. But Liam Neeson, I mean, talk about, just I said Darkman was the one that got him like to be in all these starring roles. Well, like Schindler's List was like his coming out party. Like this guy could lead a freaking movie, and it's just going to be this incredible historical freaking masterpiece. I mean, really what it is.
And just the fact that when you think of Liam Neeson, you don't think about his role as Oscar Schindler first. I mean, nothing against his role in Taken. That's iconic, but you just kind of always hoped and wished that it would be for this. But.
Exactly. Well, and that's the whole pre-Taken, it was. But then when Taken came out, everything changed in his career. His career path became a little different. So I'm going to go to my last movie, but it'll be the only one I did that's post-Taken. There's a couple other ones that I really liked too, like A Walk Among the Tombstones. Run All Night was pretty good. Let's see. Monster Calls, we talked about that one already. I love that movie. But I'm going to talk about The Grey. The Grey was a movie that I think people were kind of upset because he did Taken, and did he do something else in between Taken? He did Taken, then he did Unknown. So in 18, and Clash of the Titans. So he had a bunch of action movies in between Taken and The Grey. Mm-hmm. So when The Grey trailer came out, and everyone saw that there were wolves in it, everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's going to be Liam Neeson punching and kicking wolves in the face." And that's how, and people were excited for this. And that is not the movie. So the movie, directed by Joe Carnahan, written by Carnahan, Ian McKenzie Jeffers, starring Liam Neeson, Dermot Mulroney, Frank Grillo, Dallas Roberts, Joe Anderson, Nonzo Anozie, James Badge Dale, Ben Hernandez-Bray, and Openshaw. The Grey is a movie about a plane of workers that are like going out to like a site like in Antarctica, I think, or Alaska, and their plane crashes, and Liam Neeson is their guide. So he's a skilled huntsman, and he is trying to help everyone survive. It's a movie about survival. So think something like Alive, that one's based on a true story. But that's the kind of movie it is. So it's really not an action film. It's more of a drama thriller, I would say, with a very bleak ending. But Liam Neeson, I think this is one of those movies that, I was ready to enjoy Liam Neeson kicking wolves in the face. Mm-hmm. But I was much more pleased with the movie when I watched it and found out that it was more of just kind of a gut-wrenching drama about this plane of people that are trying to survive the wilderness. And that's really what it is. I mean, because you got Frank Grillo in there, too. I mean, he's Mr. Action Guy, too. And it's definitely not a movie where he gets to throw any punches or anything either. It's just everybody trying to survive the cold and the wolves that are out there to attack. It's a really great movie. It's very bleak. It's very gray-looking. Hence The Grey, the title. I didn't mean to do that as a pun, but that's just kind of what it came out as.
It's a cinematically beautiful shot.
It really is. It really is. It's a shame it didn't do better because, again, I think it was because people found out that it wasn't what they thought it was, and it just didn't make the money that it probably should have. Because in my opinion, when you talk about his post-Taken films, it's probably my favorite of his. Because a lot of the other ones are cookie cutter action flicks. This is not. This is something different. And I really dug this movie, and I kind of want him to do something similar to this again, whether it's with Carnahan or somebody else. I think kind of a man against nature film is something really cool that we don't maybe get enough of, and I really dig them. So I really hope that something like this comes along again. But if you haven't seen The Great, really recommend checking it out. Probably, like I said, one of my favorite Liam Neeson movies, hence why I'm talking about it. But yeah, definitely check that one out. Wayne, what's your final, or have you got any thoughts on The Gray?
No, like I said, I just was more blown away by how well it was shot,
Yeah.
and the cinematics of it all. The last one that I picked beforehand, I don't know, we're going to talk about honorable mentions or anything like that. I just wanted to mention that, like, one of he was in Gangs of New York, very, very briefly.
Gangs of New York,
the priest.
Yep. Batman Begins.
Yep.
Another one. Non-Stop is a good one.
All right. The third one that I picked was 2010's The A-Team, where he played Hannibal. Rightly so. I almost called him Hannibal Caine. Ryan Reynolds' character from the third Blade movie. Because, how many guys are named Hannibal?
Or Hannibal Lecter.
Well, yeah. I think this movie snuck up on a lot of people. It stars, obviously, Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper.
Charlton Copley.
I was trying to figure out how to pronounce that. Thank you. Mrs. Justin Timberlake, Jessica Biel, Quentin Rampage Jackson, the ex-UFC fighter, as B.A. Baracus, Patrick Wilson, Gerald McCraney, a bunch of other folks here and there. For those of you that don't know, the movie is based off of the 70s TV show The A-Team, same name, where the ex-Special Forces military group is wrongly convicted of a crime they didn't commit, and they escape into the seedy underworld of L.A., I believe they said. And if you could find them, maybe you can hire The A-Team. Ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. All right, sorry about that. Da-da-da-da-da.
We're going to get charged and stuff.
No, I changed it up. See, I added that little thing at the end, so it's not the same.
Give Vanilla Ice.
I really, really enjoyed this one. You got all the makings of your, I guess you say, cookie cutter action movie.
Yeah.
You got that awesome helicopter fight. Hannibal fakes his death to get out of the prison.
Yep.
What can I say about it? It's an enjoyable action movie from 2010.
Liam Neeson chomping on the cigar.
Yeah.
Are
you surprised they never did a sequel to this?
It didn't make a lot of money, and people didn't like it as much, so it wasn't well received, and the box office wasn't great. So I think Carnahan was, because there's another one directed by Joe Carnahan. He did The Gray as well.
But I pity the fool.
The cast I thought was really good though. I really liked Bradley Cooper. He was like perfect, his face.
Yeah.
And then my character from the TV show, my favorite character was always Murdoch.
Yeah.
So while Copley wasn't necessarily my first choice, I thought he did a really good job with that character. I obviously prefer the original actor. I forget who it was, but he was great. And then obviously the one everybody was looking at was, is Quentin Rampage Jackson going to be Mr. T? And I think it's funny to compare it like that because Mr. T's not a very good actor. So it's not like you're asking like Quentin Rampage Jackson to like replace Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
He's replacing Mr. T. I thought he did a decent job. Someone recently I was talking to actually brought up the fact that they kind of play him off as like a pacifist though, which is kind of weird because in the TV show that's not what he was at all.
Yeah.
So they thought that was a weird choice. Like where you're going to take your badass of the TV show and kind of turn him into a guy who, yes, he can beat people up, but he doesn't really want to.
Yeah.
But I think that was an interesting character choice for them. They wanted to kind of see how they could work with that. Overall, it's entertaining. I don't love it, but it was an entertaining movie. And of course, Liam Neeson, he kills it. He plays the role perfectly. They put makeup on him to make him look more like the actor from A-Team, which I thought was interesting, to make him look less Liam Neeson-like.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen it, I haven't watched it in 10 years. So honestly, maybe I'll watch it again and maybe I'll like it. I don't know. That happens sometimes too, where if you haven't seen something in a while, and we can go on an entire we will go on an entire talk about the Fast and Furious series. That series for me is exactly that. Didn't like it until a certain point, switched to my head, and I was like, you know what? I don't mind this series anymore. So it's there are certain things that over time, movies you start to obviously going to watch them again, but you see them differently. You know what I mean?
Are you trying to say you started living your life a quarter mile at a time?
I did, and it's all about family. Because I don't have friends, Wayne. I have family. So yeah, I mean, there are plenty of movies that I've watched second or third time that I was like, oh, you know what? This isn't terrible. And it goes the other way too. There's plenty of movies I've watched 2 or 3 times where the third time I'm like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to watch this ever again because I don't like it that much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, if you haven't seen A-Team, I do recommend checking it out. It's probably free somewhere. I think it's one of those ones that pops up like on IMDb.
Hulu.
Hulu, there you go. It's on Hulu right now. So they're your Liam Neeson movies. Lots of good ones out there to choose from. We're going to go right into now our reviews
of the week.
And we are going to start with the brand new Liam Neeson film called The Ice Road. The Ice Road is a film that, if you watch the trailer, it really reminds you, at least it reminded me, of Fast and the Furious. It stars Liam Neeson, Marcus Thomas, Lawrence Fishburne, Amber Midthunder, Benjamin Walker, Holt McCallany, Martin Sensmeiser, Matt McCoy, Matt Salinger. It's directed by Jonathan Hensley, written by him as well. It is a movie about a bunch of people who get caught in a mine and they need to be rescued. The bigwigs at the top decide to put together a team. They call Lawrence Fishburne's character, or they go see him anyway. Mm-hmm. He puts together this team of ragtag individuals who know how to drive on ice roads in April.
And then he offers them a red pill or a blue pill. Yes. Sorry, excuse me. As you could probably guess, there are many twists and turns in this movie, much like an ice road.
Ooh, I like it. Not everybody is who they say they are. And there's some, obviously some things happen pretty early on. I'll say this as a spoiler. Don't get attached to Lawrence Fishburne. You should know when the credits come up and it says, and Lawrence Fishburne, that he's basically kind of doing this as a favor. Yep. He's not to say he's not good in it, because he's fine in it. They use the locale to their benefit. There's a lot of crazy driving on the ice road. The premise is that all the regular ice road trekkers are on vacation because we're coming into springtime.
The thaw.
The road's going to thaw, so they have to do this very quickly, very smoothly, and of course things go wrong. There's lots of big action set pieces, trucks rolling over, people falling through ice.
And the bastards that just won't die.
Yes, the bastard that just won't die. Jesus. Yeah. It was getting kind of Terminator-like there for a while at the end.
I was, just waiting for something else to happen at the
exactly.
end. Seriously, it could have played out perfectly without giving anything away. They stop, they turn, here comes the hand.
Yes.
And that's all I need to say, because now you totally want to watch and see it. But I got to say, my favorite, as great as Liam Neeson is, I absolutely love Amber Midthunder.
Yes.
And her character. Just the most badass truck driver lady.
Yes.
And I think really you got to be a badass, whether, obviously male or female, to do this stuff.
To do that all the time. Those people
steel.
are crazy. I know I was watching it with my wife, and she was like, I can't believe people do, not do what's in the movie, but drive on these ice roads for a living. Like, every time something happens, she's like, nope, not doing it. Like, they fall in the water, nope. And it's just, and we enjoyed it, she enjoyed it too. But it was like one of those just, I would never, there's nothing in me that would ever make me go, I want to do that.
So, I don't know, man. For $50,000 a trip, you might be able to twist my arm.
I guess, maybe.
You want to talk about driving Miss Daisy on that? Driving in my car, beep, beep. No, what is interesting to me, I really want to check how factual a lot of the stuff is, because a lot of the stuff they do in these 18-wheelers, my father-in-law is an over-the-road trucker, And I just want to check and see, all right, how plausible is this? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, every film takes
Liberties.
liberties. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I'm looking for the word. I'm looking for it. It's dangling right in front of me. I can't think of it. So, but yeah, regardless, you just by watching this, you could tell that this was shot for the big screen,
Yes.
the theater. But I still loved watching every minute of this movie. I didn't think it was going to at all. And I'm just like, I can't wait to watch this again because this was fantastic.
Yeah, it's. I will say it's a bit silly, but it's a lot of fun. And if you like these big budget truck car movies, like something like the Fast and the Furious, it's not to that scale, but they do a lot of things that are very close. It reminded me of because Fast and Furious did it already on the ice road in 8.
Yeah.
So it definitely reminded me of that scene.
It felt very much like Speed to me.
Yeah, it did. Because there is a time limit. They got to get there to a certain amount of time.
I just wish Liam Neeson would have went, it was cans. It was cans.
Oh, God. And Keanu Reeves would have been awesome in it, by the way.
Yeah, that would have, if Liam Neeson would have turned this down or was unavailable for any way, Keanu Reeves would have nailed the hell out of it.
He would have nailed out. Yes,
but of course, any of the bad guys that messed with them, there would have stood no chance because they would have just gone all John Wink on him. And
yes, he would have.
did I just say John Wink?
I think you did.
Yeah,
it's a different character.
It's his cousin.
It's his cousin. Ice Road is now on Netflix if you haven't seen it. I definitely recommend checking it out just for entertainment purposes. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to think very much, and it's worth your time. All right, so the next movie this week is a little different. It's a Hulu original. It's called False Positive. It is directed by John Lee, produced by Ilana Glazer, John Lee, Jonathan Wang, Allison Rose Carter, written by John Lee and Ilana Glazer, starring Ilana Glazer, Justin Theroux, Pierce Brosnan, and Sophia Bush. So also, who else is in it? Gretchen Mol also makes an appearance as Pierce Brosnan's nurse. Ilana Glazer is mostly known for comedy. She was in the series Broad City, but this is not a comedy. This is produced by A24, so that holds a lot of weight with horror fans because they produce a lot of weird and strange horror films, a lot of indie stuff. Copywriter Lucy Martin lives with her husband Adrian in Manhattan. The couple has been trying to conceive for 2 years, so they go to Dr. John Hindle, played by Pierce Brosnan, Adrian's former teacher and a leading fertility doctor. So he ends up getting, through the fertility, she ends up getting pregnant. She gets pregnant with 3 kids.
Yes.
Twins, and then the girl, they're separate. They're in separate sets, if you will.
The boys are identical twins.
Yes.
The female is a singlet, as he referred to it as.
Yes.
And I'm going to just, this is where I had trouble with it, because the boys look like they're a very healthy pregnancy. The girl is a little bit undersized, and the doctor expresses concerns about her.
Yes.
So he recommends reduction.
Yes.
In terminating one of the babies. Or,
one of the pregnancies.
Yes. I was like, sitting down, I actually paused and why the hell are you going to terminate the 2 healthy ones and gamble on the sick one? Or the one that's got a higher risk? This hits home for me because my wife and I went through IVF and the whole process, and we lost 2 sets of twins throughout this process. So it was a trigger warning.
Was it? Okay.
If you guys, have gone through infertility, you've got an issue, just be aware that it could stir up feelings. It sure did me.
No,
I damn near stopped watching the movie.
Did you?
Because
Okay.
I was like, what kind of stupid bull?
Well, but
yeah.
you have to, if you watch the whole movie, you have to take into account, was he actually telling her the truth?
Oh, I know.
So
that's why I continue.
Yes. There is obviously some mystery and some horror to this film. It is one of those films. So, that's the plot. The plot is then she elects to get the twins removed, like Wayne was talking about, and keep the girl because she wants a baby girl.
Yeah.
And that's done. So we think.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of twists and turns in this. The twists and turns don't always work though.
No.
There are some very illogical things that happen in this movie that some of it can be explained away. Because one thing I read was like someone was like, "Well, why would she just give the final copy of the report away?" Well, it's like because she's in her head, she's kind of going nuts at this point.
Well, yeah, they allude to her mental illness throughout the film.
Yes. Now, some of this is gaslighting, and that's what the movie is about. Is making her feel like she's losing her mind. In some cases, I think she actually is losing her mind a little bit, but she's not wrong about a lot of things. So she is correct about a lot of things in this movie. I'm trying not to give anything away because I do want people to watch it. Not that I think it's a good movie. I think it could have been a lot better. But I always like movies that have shocking endings.
Yeah.
And this definitely has an ending that I think will stick with people for a long period of time. Where I remember the comment, Donovan was in the background running around, and I go, Donovan, I don't think this is appropriate for you. And Rebecca goes, I don't think this is appropriate for me. Like the last shot of the scene, and I'm not going to say what it is. Wayne knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a bit disturbing. I think the intentions behind the movie were good, and that they're trying to show that stuff like this can happen. Obviously, this is an exaggeration, but it's definitely a woman about women and about men having say. It has a lot to do with politics, a lot to do with abortion, and men having the say over a woman's body.
Yep.
There's a lot of that in this movie, so if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, don't watch it. But I think the message is very strong. The execution on the film wasn't perfect, is what I would say.
I mean, it had really good points. When they're getting ready to go to the dinner or the speech,
Yes.
And he walks down the dark hallway, I was like, oh, look at that, creepy. Woo!
It has a lot of cool horror moments that don't. Now, I would say don't necessarily like pay off, but it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to be like a scary horror film. It's just like almost like a tense. It wants to use a lot of those tense scenarios from horror films in kind of a drama, but it's hard to explain because it is a horror film because there are a lot of horrific things that happen in this film. But it's not. I don't want people to get confused. Like, you're not supposed to be terrified or anything in this movie. There's no jump scares. There's no ghosts or anything. It's just
the horror. You're horrified at the end results.
Yes, exactly. You're horrified what they do to her, what's going on, the whole process, and then the final scene, like I talked about. So it's like I give it like a lukewarm recommendation, where it's a movie I think people should watch. Just don't watch it expecting to love it or really, in all honesty, enjoy it that much. But it's just an interesting thing to view, I think.
Yeah, you got to be in a particular mood to really enjoy it.
For
and
sure.
I didn't say I didn't enjoy it, but I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess, is kind of
yeah.
You know, like 5 out of 10, 2.5 stars.
I would agree with
your
that.
Your rating
yeah.
system is?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I really wanted to like it because I like kind of weird, strange movies, and I wanted it to be one of those ones I could highly recommend to people. But like I said, I want people to watch it because of the ending. I think it's well worth it for that alone. And it's only an hour and a half, so you're not wasting a lot of time. It's just a bizarre, flippin' movie. And I am interested to see what Ilana Glazer does next, because, again, knowing that she was basically on a comedy show for the last 10 years, this was kind of out of left field, and I like it. I like that she took this risk. I hope, whatever she does next is maybe a little better.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's on Hulu if you want to check it out.
I will say I found Pierce Brosnan to be so deliciously creepy.
Yes, oh God.
Soothing yet creepy at the same time.
Pierce Brosnan is very good in this role. He does exactly what you need him to do. He makes you feel comfortable, but then very uncomfortable in the next scene. And you're just like...
He uses that James Bond charm that he has, and then just kicks in the creep factor. It's like, whoa.
Within a conversation he's having with her, he'll go from like, oh no, this is how I help people, and then he'll say something else, and you're like, wait, what did he just say? Mm-hmm. And you're just like, and you can see the look on her face, like, So it's a really interesting role for him. I think he had a lot of fun with it too, to a certain extent. Gretchen Mol definitely looks like she had fun with her role as the nurse. There's some craziness between that going back and forth too. Overall, it's just a strange little movie. So if you like strange little movies, head over to Hulu, check it out. All right, we're going to wrap up for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Wayne, any final thoughts on Liam Neeson or any of the movies we watched this week?
You know, if it's got Liam Neeson in it, even if it's not these most strongly written or maybe not your cup of tea, you can enjoy it because of the performance you're going to get from Liam Neeson. Pretty much 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. He's going to bring it, and he's going to give it his best shot.
That's very true, very true. All right, everybody, for Wayne Yerke, I'm Mike Kirkpatrick. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.